I have a marketing background, and I became obsessed about 20 years ago with the explosion of behaviour and cognitive science, and how it was not being applied in business, how it was not being applied in marketing, how it was not being applied in the emerging digital world that we saw then. Most of our ideas about how people are really pretty ropey. Really pretty ropey, and, you know, stuff like that people, what distinguishes humans from other creatures is that we think. We've learned from people like Daniel Kahneman and the Nudge Gang that human beings are to thinking as cats are to swimming. And we can do it if we really have to. Which is, if you're designing any online experience, you'll know that 3 clicks is probably 2 clicks too many. Dramatic fall off, you're making people think. Too many options. Secondly, that we're much more like Captain Kirk than we are like Mr. Spock. Much more like Sapiens. So 1 or 2 again. Okay, much more like Kirk than Spock. In that we're impulsive, intuitive, we don't think about stuff, we do it, and then we make sense of it later. That's how it goes with humans. We're not logical, we're not considered, we don't look at the evidence, otherwise we wouldn't have Brexit. But the third and most important truth about human beings is the thing that I've been wanging on about for 15 years now, which is that we're fundamentally social creatures. We're evolved for a world of other people. Our mind seems to have evolved in order for us to interact with other people rather than for us to do extended calculus. That's not what we're for. There was a moment a few years ago, if you remember, when Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov, and there was all this fusing around in the media about, it just shows computers are taking over, it's the end of humanity. Well, no, because that's not what most humans are for, not doing lots and lots of calculations really fast in their head. Most humans are living the lives that we all lead, doing amazing things. So it's our social selves that's important. So in order to land that really, we're going to do a couple of things. And we're going to, if you've got something in your lap, even if you're on the Twitter feed there, could you put it down? If you've got a drink in your hand, could you put it down too? I've seen it before with black cups of coffee going into the air. That's fantastic. Dramatic when we replay the footage. And we're going to do something that's based on the work of Dirk Helbing, Professor Dirk Helbing, who you'll know from his work in traffic studies at the Technologists University of Dresden. He's one of the world's experts on crowd behaviour. And he's got a Hungarian research team who go around the world filming football crowds and then taking them back and turning into really shit animations based on the mathematical observations their team have made. So if you're interested in that stuff, helbing.org is the place to go. Really terrible animations, really sort of 1997, really terrible. Helbing, H-E-L-B-I-N-G, Helbing, Dirt Helbing. He's a top man. And very funny as well, despite having been Professor of Traffic Studies. For those of you really into his stuff, he was the guy who first designed a self-organising traffic system, which got to prototype, and the City of Fathers of Dresden decided it was a terrible idea because no one would be there to blame. So it never got built. Anyway, so Dirk Helbing. So we're going to do this, and it's in Germany it's called Die Welle, in Spanish La Ola, in the States it's called the Wave, and here we call it the Mexican Wave to distinguish from all the other waves that we're interested in. So we're going to do this now, and you guys are going to be starting it, and it's on 3 and not after 3. Think of Dirk when we do this. 1, 2, 3. Now, that was a bit shit, to be honest. It was a bit shit. Some of you went, should I stand up? No, I'm not. So we'll do it again. This time standing up, please. 1, 2, 3. Whee! Okay, and it was also a bit shit because there was only a whee in the middle here. So who was that? Thank you, sir. That was great. Thank you. So this time with noise, please. 1, 2, 3. That's very good. That's very good. So no other speech can do that voluntarily to align itself and to coordinate itself at scale like that. We do it all the time. Actually makes you feel quite good, weirdly, even though the thought of it, as I look down the line here, the absolute terror in people's eyes. Fucking hell, he's going to make us do his ears. Yes, then maybe do that. So we'll do something else. All stand up, please. another piece of behavioural science. I want you to find someone nearby, so organise yourself into pairs, please. If you haven't got a pair, put your hand up. If you haven't got a pair, put a hand up. So there's one behind you. Could you come out to the front then, sir? Yes. Put your hand up if you've not got a pair. There's somebody just in there's 2 rows back, just behind you. Could you come out, sir? There we go, down the front here. Who else has not got a pair? You've got one there. Anyone else not got a pair? See, you two are made for each other. There we go. So one of you come round, that's right, come round there and go by the coffee. There we are. And you guys do it too, please. So put it down here. You want to take a photograph, I know. Okay. Okay. So are we ready? We ready? Right. So turn towards each other, please. And I apologise to all the Brits in the room. I'm going to make you touch the other person. Yeah, I know, it's a nightmare, right? So now put your hands out in front of you. So both hands, that's it. There are a number, that's it. That's good. That's a supplicant pose. And there's some wrestling going on over there already, which is great. So I want you to hold each other's hands. This is the bit that's really tricky. And again, a number of grips are possible. Right. So this is a really simple game. There's one win condition, which is to get your partner off the ground the most times. Not just once, not highest, but the most times. Go! What? Get your partner off the ground the most times. Get your partner off the ground the most times. Get your partner off the ground the most times. Okay. So, jumping, right, jumping. Thank you very much. Can you just all sit down, please? That was really fabulous. Not as fast, I've got to say, Pia, as... where's Pia? Pia. So, not as fast as the German team that I got the other day. It was a record for me. It was under 3 seconds. We had 250 German pharmaceutical executives jumping up there. 2.5 to 3 seconds. Amazing. You get another go at that maybe later. But so here's what happened. So first of all, you go, when I say get your partner off the ground as many times as you can, quite a lot of you looked at me and mouthed, what the fuck? What on earth is he about? What's that? What's the thing? What's the thing? And there was very little discussion, very little strategizing, very considerate of utilities, very little, I've got to go into my special place, moment of reflection, think about this, come up with a really great answer to this. There was just quite a lot of people to start with, just going, oh well, this seems quite good. They're doing it too, so that must be okay. Some of you over there went, oh, it must be more complicated than this. Must be more complicated, just shows journalists, right? Must be more complicated than this, but mostly it's spread through the room by people going, oh, they're doing it, it's a fairly simple answer, why not we do that? And most people for most of our lives live like that. You remember the scene in When Harry Met Sally? When Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan's making those strange noises, I've never understood what that's about. When she stopped moaning and groaning and banging her head on the table, the woman at the next table says, what? I'll have what she's having. So this is your big insight about shaping human behaviour. The third and most important one. It is the second most important heuristic in cognitive science. We do what other people do. We use the brains of other people. We outsource the cognitive load to people around us. It's not tricky, right? You know, where's the bar? I know, it's where the people are coming from with the drinks. Where do we go? Where the people are. Where do we put our coats? I don't know, maybe on the floor. That's what other people are doing. Let's do that. It covers all kinds of things in our lives, from the names we choose for our children. It's a big one, right? You think it's about the unique creature. We imagine that we choose them a unique little creature. Sarah and her 2 twins, I'm sure she's thinking now, what should we call them? What the beautiful, unique creatures we've created. My mother was convinced she'd call me Mark because she was working as a translator from German into English at the time and had typed Deutschmark, yes, those were the days, hundreds of thousands of times when she was pregnant with me. But if you go and look at the data, names data, published by the government, the popularity of Mark, the boys born in England, peaked in 1960-something, year of my birth.
she was convinced she acted independently in this. But no, she was copying other people. And we don't know we do it a lot of the time. It covers what we drink, where we live, the jobs we do, how we dress, the partners we choose. It's not independent. Message, oh, massive.
It's not working.
That's okay.
So would you like to do rumination without it?
Yeah, no, I'm doing without it. We're on the way.
Okay.
But that's the big thing, right? So it's a really important thing. Well, I'll have what she's having. The social side of us, it's really, really, really important for lots of things. It explains how things spread through populations. So if you're writing a news story, if you're putting something on a website, it will spread further if people share it with other people, or if people see other people being excited about it. That's what this wonderful company is about, fundamentally. Helping us see that stuff, having those conversations amplified. So it's really important in that sense. It's also really important for innovation and creativity, and that's really what I wanted to focus on tonight. It's as far as creativity is concerned, we tend to think of creativity as being something that's a solo act. You sit on your own, you think about something, you come up with an idea, the clouds part maybe, the music goes, sunlight comes down, or maybe it's late at night and you've had sufficient coffee, and maybe cigarettes or whatever, you just think, oh, I've got it, that's it, that's the thing. But all the studies of creativity show it's not like that at all. Creativity is in fact a multiple game in two ways. The first way is obvious that it's very often a team game, both in coming up with the idea and then also implementing it. But more importantly, it's a team game in the sense that we use the work of other people. We use the work of other people to make stuff. Grayson Perry, famous ceramicist, did a great series of wreath lectures 4 years ago. I don't know if anyone listened to them. Absolutely fantastic. And he puts it this way, he says, originality is for people with short memories. Originality is people with short memories. In other words, there's stuff lying around. Why not start with that and then move on? Bowie, R.I.P., started using other people's stuff all of the time and then tried to make something with it. Elvis Presley, genius, king of rock and roll. John Lennon called him an original in the age of copycats, was in fact a covers artist. If there's anything less original in a singer, it's a covers artist. If any of you play your own music, you'll know that when you go to the sound check says, so listen, do you do your own stuff? Hoping for once to hear a yes. And you go, well, mostly it's like covers. And that's just one above the sound tech in music performance hierarchy. So they're always disappointed to hear that you're just slightly above them as opposed to an original creative thinker. Elvis was a covers artist. He used famous, well-worn hits to make himself famous. The Hound Dog, which was a breakthrough tune on US TV, had been a genre hit previously for Big Mama Thornton. 2 years previously, everyone knew it was a standard, essentially. A standard, rather than something new and original. And the moves that got him banned from TV, and was so shocking to American parents, had been stolen from another act. He was supporting an act called Freddie Bell and the Bellboys, who used to finish their act with Hound Dog. And in the final chorus, they slowed it down to less than half speed, and Freddie would do the thing with the hips. Elvis and Scotty Moore asked him, do you mind if we do that? Could you mind just borrow that? And they took it and copied it, and it became Elvis's signature. Even the name, right? Elvis, I thought that was like a unique name, like symbol or something, the moon unit. But no, St. Elvis, right? Where do you think the Church of St. Elvis is? Where? Memphis, no. Tupelo, no. Just outside St. David's in Pembrokeshire. St. Elvis was the 4th century Welsh saint, Welsh-Irish saint, one of God's own people. And his clothes, Elvis's look, was stolen from street fashion by Bernard Lansky, who was the Beale Street fashion shop owner. He literally copied the clothes that he'd seen on the street that everyone was wearing, washing up in the Delta, and he copied them. Everything about Elvis was a copy, but he was, again, an original. Just like with Bowie, everything he did was taken from somewhere else. I don't know if any of you listened to that last album, Black Star, but one of the things extraordinary about it is that jazz band that he got in there, playing over a very modern sort of grime-like rhythm. It's just extraordinary, right? And he did that. He found new people to collaborate with who would bring something new that he could use. He first sort of got into my consciousness when Starman was released, and I was one of those kids and go through that whole brother thing, which shocked my parents and everyone else in the UK. It's still written about a lot as an iconic moment. The thing that I remember was thinking, well, that's very familiar when he gets to the chorus, because the verse is all quite low-key and strummy, and then the chorus goes, "There's a star man waiting in the sky." Was if, like me, you've been raised on musicals, you'll know that's somewhere over the rainbow. And he was so brave as a copy. He took stuff from a million miles away and made it count. Now, Picasso said talent copies, genius steals. T.S. Eliot said, it's not whether you copy that distinguishes you as a great poet from a mediocre one, because they all do. It's how far away you copy from and what you do with it. This is true in innovation as well. So, for example, I was told at school that James Watt invented the steam engine that powered the Industrial Revolution, that made the Great British Empire and made the modern world. Bullshit. There had been an engine, Newcomen's engine had been installed for 50 years in British mines. And all that James Watt did was he hacked it by putting a little external condenser on it. Didn't invent anything. The fact he sued anyone who tried to amend his design subsequently was a whole other story. When Babbage and Ada Lovelace were putting together the first computer, as generally regarded to be the first computer, what they didn't do is wonder, how shall we invent a new way to input the instructions, Ada being the coder. No, they just nicked the mechanism that was used widely. Punch cards, which is why, until the late 1970s, large computers had the data input and the software instructions inserted via punch cards. It was just a straight borrowing. Why bother to invent something when someone has always done it? So that's the thing. Now, I know when I say copying, there's a bit inside of us that goes, that's a bit shit. Yeah, I don't know, has anyone ever been to the Elvies in Porthcawl, South Wales? If you shouldn't, if you haven't, you should do. It's the last weekend in September, and it's the world's largest gathering of Elvis impersonators. It's fantastic. Lots of blokes sort of my age, doing old Elvis mostly, and then some young ones as well, and women. There was a very good young Elvis lady recently. Anyway, so you look at that crowd and you go, they're all a bit shit. It's just not them copying Elvis. It's a bit, and everyone's done a bit of Elvis at some point, right? It's just a bit rubbish, right? There's no value to be created from that at all. So, I can see the point there, but there are two kinds of copying. There's copying by, copying to solve a problem, copying by creating lots of error, and copying that is about just lifting and not thinking of, not caring about replicating. We're going to do something else now to demonstrate how that works, to show how copying, creating error is the heart of creativity. So, you lot here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you 4 here are going to stand up here, please. Round of applause, please. Very brave. Can you stand in a line, facing this way? So come here, yep, that's it. Facing that way. Come on. Very good. So what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? What's going to happen is each of you is going to be touched, starting with you, sir, on the shoulder, and you're going to turn around, like that, and see the person behind you, what they're doing, and then you turn around without saying anything, and you show tap the person in front of you on the shoulder, they'll turn around, you show them what you see. It's like Chinese whispers. It'll make sense. Wait till you're tapped on the shoulder to turn around. Then watch and copy. Okay? Right. So far, so good. Oh, sorry, no, I'll just change that. Very good. Very good. Okay, I think before we go any further, you all need a big round of applause. Stay where you are. So just comments from the audience about what did you see happening there? It changed. It changed. At the end, it was very different from at the beginning. Where did it start changing?
It went from a hateful post.
Just here. Just here. What happened?
We lost the chest bump.
There was no chest bump. Oh, no, terrible. And what happened after that?
You went to 2 hands.
2 hands. Yeah, very. When did we go to 2 hands? Round about here? Yeah? Interesting. Any other significant changes you noticed? Oh, this thing. Oh, the prayer thing. That was great. Oh, very good. Very good. Excellent. So, could you, sir, show us what you saw at the end? Everyone else, if you watch out for this, because I want you to show him and the audience what you first saw. Okay, go. A yoga master. Sir. Oh my God. Thank you all very much. Sit down, please. Thank you. Look, so the point about that is that there can, when you use human copying, can be lots of error, and can just happen, and it's a bit of a nightmare. If you're trying to tell an organisation, spread a message to an organisation or to a population, and it starts as I started and it ends up as it started over there, it's not worked, right? That's a problem. But each step, there's the possibility of change, the possibility of novelty, of taking the same things and doing them again. And when humans do this, as opposed to machines, it's interesting. I'm a big fan of Andy Warhol, not because he draws or paints particularly well, didn't really, or even directed very well, but because he used mechanical processes to create error. In genetics, it's essential that we create error, but not too much. So when we think about evolution, there are 3 ideas, not just selection, not just fitness. There's transmission, variation, and selection. And the transmission of variation in human populations and in all animal populations is through copying. Culture works the same way. The stuff that we make, innovation works the same way. If you look at the history of a particular object, like the history of a bicycle design, or so on, that just changes over time with little bits changing until you end with something you didn't know it would be like that. And we don't use this enough. We don't create enough room for error in our worlds. You can do that just by chance, by iterating. It's one of the things that iteration does when we're trying to solve a problem. But you can also use copying in a more fundamental way. And to do that, I'm going to tell you one final story. And that's about Professor Martin Elliott, who till recently was head of professor of cardiac surgery, paediatric surgery at Great Ormond Street Hospital. And he's a lovely man. I met him a few years ago, and he tells this wonderful story of how he reinvented with his team, the practices in the operating theatre. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Great Ormond Street or seen any of those wonderful reality shows on TV where you have, a tiny kid like this. And operations last 12, 14, 15 hours. It's incredible. And the number of professionals are around the room in the operating theatre. Quite extraordinary. And one weekend, Martin had been operating all week and all weekend. And he slumped in front of the T on a Sunday night, in front of the TV, and he switched on Formula 1 highlights he'd been waiting for. He's a big fan. And he suddenly realised that all his research in the medical journals and amongst his peers to try and find the answer to the numbers of the errors that are being made in the operating theatres were just cast into shadow by what he saw the pit teams doing. Now, one or two of you are as old as me and can remember the time when Formula One pit stops took a minute or more. How long do they take now? 5 seconds? 5 seconds to be slow. When was the last time there was a major mechanical fault that happened as a result of a pit stop? 2, 3 years ago? It just doesn't happen. It used to happen all the time. Wheels would come off. People would come out the pit lane with the fuel line still attached. People would be run over in the pit lane. It's a disaster. So he basically called up McLaren. He said, will you come and look at our operating theatre practice and tell us about the process and give us some insight of how you do this so well? And they came in and went, no. The human error count was just far too high. And it was just disorganised as far as they were concerned. They'd evolved so far beyond. They said, but you could speak to Ferrari because they've got a bunch of people who teach people this stuff. So it had Ferrari in for 9 months who redesigned the process in an operating theatre. Because if you think about it, a small child surrounded by these tubes and wires being handed over to another team at the end of an operation or halfway through an operation with their wires and tubes and so on, that's just like a pit stop, a pit change. So 9 months later, they got the new process and protocol in place, and they saw an immediate reduction of 42% in human error count in the operating theatre. Now, none of us, I suspect, will ever do anything that's quite as important as that. But if you can copy a solution from far away, like Martin did, and bring it to a new context, you're creating error, but you're also solving the problem. So here's what I recommend that you do, is when you're faced with a problem, don't try and solve it by looking at what's been done in the field. Ask yourself what kind of problem this is. Is this a problem that I've seen before anywhere? Has anyone recognise this kind of problem? Is it, in Martin's case in the operating theatre, is it a handover problem? Is it a sorting problem? What kind of problem is it? And once you've done that, you can go an awful long way to then using your definition of the problem to sort through the world. Okay? Somewhere out there, someone has solved this problem. The further away you go, as T.S. Eliot says, the further away you go, the greater value you create by bringing that solution back to solve your problem. So 2 very simple questions. What kind of thing is this? What kind of problem is this? Secondly, what kind of solutions have other people done to solve this kind of problem? There you go. Copying can be your friend. Create error. Be human. But most of all, ask yourself what kind of thing this is. What kind of solutions have other people done? And then copy, copy, copy. Thank you very much.
Can you think of a way that this could be applied to the journalism or tech industries specifically?
Well, yes, in the tech industry we do copying all the time in 2 ways. One of which is we take code from one place and we reapply it elsewhere. That's a really obvious thing, and that needs to be mechanically done in lots of ways because you don't want to introduce the error. That's one thing. In journalism, what we don't want to do is just cut and paste, because that's ripping stuff off.
Plagiarism.
That's plagiarism. That's, I don't know if everyone's seen Matt Bateman's analysis of Avatar and Pocahontas. Search it, Google it, it's brilliant. It basically shows they're the same show, the same film, the same story, with just the names changed to protect the plagiarist. So we have to avoid that. However, if you go, how has somebody solved this kind of problem from a journalistic point of view? What kind of things have other people done to deploy resources around a problem like this? Then you start to get there. And if you go further than the world of journalism, you say, okay, so there were some experimenters in, I don't know, in some social science who approach understanding a similar kind of problem. They brought 17 different people together, let's do that. Or let's find someone who's got a completely different perspective on this and take their perspective and use that as an anchoring for our review. So there are lots of ways that you can apply it. In fact, we all apply it all of the time, which is why many of us have got stickers on our laptops, weirdly. And many of us have the same devices.
There's a question just here. It's got a mic on you.
I'm really interested in the way you're thinking as a programmer, as a computer person, about challenges in anti-copying, right? So journalists are typically very creative people. One of the big challenges for our industry is monetizing our industry. So let's flip that over to your perspective. You're having to work with creatives, presumably from a range of settings. How do you encourage people who are left-brain creatives to start thinking about a problem from a programmer's perspective, where you're looking for the most elegant solution?
Very good question. I think that one of the questions I often use our understanding of other people's go-to strategies and tactics as a way to think new thoughts about a subject. So, I always end up saying, what would David do here? He'd get a different band together, he'd change the drummer, he'd find a new guitarist, he'd go to somewhere else, he'd try and give up cocaine by going to Berlin with Iggy Pop. Brilliant. Worst idea ever. But there are lots of ways you
to one side.
one side. But if you ask how would Bell Labs solve this, that's one strategy. And then you go further from the tech field and you go, okay, what about Crick and Watson, what would they do? So further away again, but still in a sort of a scientific world. And then you go, so what about the people who have made sense of the latest dig in what's supposed to be the site of Troy? 7 layers of shit, lots of different things to pull apart. How did they go about making sense of that? I've actually developed a map and a tool for understanding behavioural data, which is around all over the place, using tools developed for archaeology and anthropology. So you can develop new things if you put yourself into another field's shoes. And as soon as you do that, you're liberated. Because no longer a journalist, you're someone who's trying to solve the problem. No longer thinking about it in terms of how newspapers or news organisations have gone about writing a story or investigating a story or telling stories or charging for stuff. And to the point of charging and monetising, lots of people struggle with their stuff being free. It's not just journalists. How might other people have solved it? How have they started to address it? So we're all going to have to work very hard when Alibaba comes here, because whatever business you're in, they're going to take our money from us.
I think we'll break there.
Cool.
Thank you again, Mark.